you scare easily, this story is not for you. Because once you hear it, you'll never be able to forget it. I'd suggest don't listen alone. And before you continue, say a prayer. Whatever your faith may be, you're going to need it.
The first time I saw the dead crow nailed to my bedroom door, I knew my life would never be the same again. Its wings were spread wide, like a crucifix, and where its eyes should have been, there were two rusty pins pushed deep into the sockets. But that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was finding an identical crow in the exact same position every single morning for 7 days straight. Even though I'd installed security cameras, changed the locks, and had my brother sleep in the hallway outside my room. My name is Sarah, and what I'm about to tell you happened 3 years ago in suburban Connecticut. I was 28, newly married to David, and we just moved into our dream house in Westbrook. It was one of those picture-perfect colonial homes with white shutters and a wraparound porch. The kind of place where you imagine raising kids and hosting Sunday barbecues. David worked in finance in Manhattan, commuting every day, while I ran my graphic design business from home. Life was good. No, life was perfect. Until Emma showed up. Emma was David's college friend, or at least that's how she introduced herself when she first appeared at our doorstep on a humid Thursday evening in July. She had this unsettling way of smiling that never quite reached her eyes, and her handshake felt cold, even though it was 90 degrees outside. She said she just moved to town for a new job at the local hospital and wanted to reconnect. David seemed surprised, but pleased to see her, though I noticed he couldn't quite remember which classes they'd shared. That should have been my first red flag. She started coming over every week, always bringing homemade desserts. Elaborate things too, 7-layer cakes, creme brulee, these intricate chocolate sculptures that must have taken hours to make. At first, I was impressed. Then, I was uncomfortable. There was something obsessive about the way she watched us eat her creations, her dark eyes tracking every bite from fork to mouth. And she always insisted I eat first, always served me separately from a special plate she'd bring just for me. The changes started small. David and I began arguing about things we'd never fought about before. He'd accuse me of moving his cheese when I hadn't touched them. I'd find myself irrationally angry about the way he loaded the dishwasher. We'd go to bed upset and wake up exhausted, both of us having the same recurring nightmare about drowning in black water. The house started to feel different too. Cold spots in the middle of summer, shadows that seemed to move when no one was walking past, and this persistent smell of rotting flowers that we could never locate the source of. Then came the physical symptoms. I started losing weight rapidly, dropping 15 pounds in 2 weeks. Even though I was eating normally, my hands would shake uncontrollably at sunset, and my vision would blur. The doctors ran every test imaginable, blood work, MRIs, even checked for brain tumors. Everything came back normal. They suggested stress, maybe anxiety, and prescribed me Xanax. That didn't help at all. One night, I woke up at exactly 3:33 a.m. to find Emma standing at the foot of our bed. Just standing there, staring at us in the darkness. I screamed. David jumped up, and the lights came on to reveal an empty room. David said I must have been dreaming, but I knew what I saw. The next morning, there were muddy footprints on our bedroom carpet that matched Emma's shoe size perfectly. I started keeping a journal, documenting every strange occurrence. The entries became increasingly frantic as things escalated. Our dog, Murphy, who'd always been friendly and playful, began growling at empty corners of rooms. He'd bark ferociously at the basement door, but would whimper and back away if we tried to take him down there. One morning, I found him hiding under our bed, trembling, with strange symbols shaved into his fur. The vet couldn't explain it and seemed disturbed by what she saw. David grew distant, spending longer hours at work, sometimes not coming home until 2 or 3 in the morning. When he was home, he'd stare at me with this blank expression, like he was looking through me rather than at me to maybe call before coming over. Her face had gone completely still, and she'd smiled that cold smile of hers. Some connections can't be broken by distance or time, Sarah, she'd said. David and I have something special. We always have. When I told her David didn't even remember her from college, she'd laughed, this harsh, grating sound that made my skin crawl. He will, she'd said. He will remember everything soon enough.
That night was when the first crow appeared. After 7 days of finding them, I called my mother in tears. She drove up from Philadelphia immediately, took one look at the situation, and insisted we needed help beyond what conventional medicine or law enforcement could provide. She had a friend, Maria, who understood these things. Maria wasn't what you'd expect. She was a kindergarten teacher who wore cardigans and pearl earrings, but she'd grown up in New Orleans with a grandmother who practiced hoodoo. Maria came to the house while David was at work. The moment she stepped inside, she stopped cold in the foyer. "This house is full of it," she whispered, pulling out a small cloth bag from her purse. "The air is thick with intention and malice." She walked through each room slowly, sometimes pausing to touch a wall or a piece of furniture. In our bedroom, she found the first one, a small bundle of hair, fingernails, and what looked like dried blood wrapped in black cloth and hidden inside our mattress through a tiny slit in the seam. "She's been in your bed," Maria said, her face pale. "She's been lying where you lie, breathing where you breathe." We tore the bedroom apart and found more, behind picture frames, inside the ventilation grates sewn into the curtains. Each bundle was wrapped in fabric from my missing clothes, items I'd assumed were lost in the laundry. But the worst discovery was in the basement, behind the water heater. We found a makeshift altar with our wedding photos, except my face had been cut out of every single one and replaced with Emma's. Maria performed a cleansing ritual that night, burning sage and spreading salt in every corner while speaking words I didn't understand. She gave me a small bag to wear around my neck and told me to pray, even if I didn't believe. "Faith is protection," she said. "Doubt is a door left open." For a few days, things seemed better. The nightmares stopped. David seemed more like himself, and Murphy started eating again. But Emma didn't give up that easily. She showed up at my work, at the grocery store, at my gym, always watching, always smiling. She'd leave gifts on our doorstep, dead butterflies arranged in the shape of hearts, bouquets of flowers with all the petals removed, leaving just stems and thorns. The police said she wasn't technically doing anything illegal. Following someone in public spaces wasn't stalking. recognized. My mother insisted we leave the house, stay with her for a while, but David refused. He said I was having a mental breakdown, that I needed professional help, not superstition. The way he looked at me had changed completely. There was fear in his eyes, but also something else. Disgust, maybe, or worse, indifference. I began to suspect Emma wasn't just trying to destroy me. She was trying to replace me, and it was working. The breaking point came on a Wednesday night in October. I'd been feeling relatively normal that day, had even managed to complete some work projects. David came home early, suggesting we go out for dinner, try to reconnect. I should have known something was wrong when he insisted on that new restaurant downtown, the one Emma had recommended. Halfway through the meal, I started feeling dizzy. The room spun, colors bled together, and the last thing I remember was David's face, completely emotionless. As I slipped from my chair, I woke up in a room I didn't recognize, tied to a bed with rope that burned my wrists. The walls were covered in symbols drawn in what looked like blood, and the air smelled like sulfur and rotting meat. Emma was there, sitting in a chair beside the bed, wearing my wedding dress, my actual wedding dress that had been stored in my mother's attic. She was humming the song David and I had danced to at our reception. "He never loved you," she said conversationally, like we were having coffee. "He just thought he did. But I've been working on him since college, you see. Little suggestions, little pushes in the right direction. It takes time to build the right connections, to establish the proper channels. You were an unexpected obstacle, but every spell can be broken with enough pressure."
She explained it all to me then, perhaps because she was confident I'd never have the chance to tell anyone. How she'd been practicing what she called the old arts since she was 15, learned from her grandmother who'd emigrated from Romania. How she'd marked David as hers back in college, but he'd resisted, fled to Connecticut after graduation. How she'd spent years preparing, gathering pieces of him, hair from a barber shop he'd visited, a gym towel with his sweat, even a vial of blood from a Red Cross donation he'd made. She'd used these to build what she called a tether, slowly drawing him back to her. "But you," she spat, suddenly angry, "you appeared out of nowhere. He wasn't supposed to get married. He was supposed to wait for me." She stood up, pulling out a knife that gleamed in the candlelight filling the room. "No matter. What's done can be undone. And once you're gone, really gone, not just physically but spiritually erased, he won't even remember you existed." She began chanting in a language that hurt my ears, walking in circles around the bed, dripping hot wax on the floor in intricate patterns. The symbols on the walls began to glow, actually glow, with a sickly green light. The temperature dropped so fast I could see my breath, and something started forming in the corner of the room. A shadow that had substance, mass, presence. It moved toward me with deliberate slowness, and I knew with absolute certainty that if it touched me, I would cease to exist in every way that mattered. That's when I remembered Maria's words about faith being protection. I started praying. Not any formal prayer I'd learned in Sunday school, but a desperate plea to whatever forces of good might be listening. The small bag Maria had given me, still hidden under my shirt, began to warm against my chest. Then it became hot, so hot it burned, but I didn't care. The shadow thing recoiled, Emma's chanting became frantic, and suddenly the rope around my wrists loosened just enough. I don't fully remember escaping. There are flashes, running through woods, branches tearing at my clothes, Emma's screams of rage behind me, and that shadow thing pursuing me through the trees like smoke given form.
I remember falling into a stream and the thing stopping at the water's edge, unable or unwilling to cross. I remember pounding on a stranger's door at dawn, covered in mud and blood, unable to explain what had happened in any way that made sense. The police found the house where I'd been held. It was a foreclosed property on the edge of town, empty for 3 years. There was evidence of recent activity, candles, strange markings, rope fibers that matched what was still around my wrists. But no sign of Emma. David claimed he'd been at home all evening, had reported me missing when I didn't come home from work. He had no memory of our dinner plans, no memory of the restaurant. The security footage from that night had mysteriously corrupted. Emma vanished completely. Her apartment was empty, had been empty according to the landlord for months, paid for in cash by someone matching her description but using a different name. The hospital where she'd claimed to work had no record of her. Even David's college had no Emma in their alumni records for his graduation year. It was as if she'd been erased from existence or had never properly existed at all. But the effects of her presence lingered. David and I tried to make it work, but something fundamental had been broken. He'd have moments where his eyes would go vacant and he'd call me Emma. I'd wake up to find him standing over me, watching me sleep with an expression I couldn't read. We separated 6 months later, divorced within a year. He remarried quickly to a woman who looked disturbingly similar to Emma, though he swears they met at a coffee shop. I moved across the country to Oregon, started over completely, but even now, 3 years later, I'm not free of it. Sometimes I'll catch a glimpse of a dark-haired woman in my peripheral vision who vanishes when I turn. My new dog whines at empty rooms, and every October, on the anniversary of that night, I find things, a dead crow on my doorstep, symbols drawn in the steam on my bathroom mirror, my wedding dress laid out on my bed, even though I burned it years ago. Maria stays in touch, sends me protection charms and checks in regularly. She says what Emma did created a connection that's hard to fully sever, like a psychic scar that aches before a storm. She's taught me ways to strengthen my defenses, to recognize the signs of magical intrusion. I've become someone I never thought I'd be, someone who carries salt in her pockets, who won't eat food prepared by strangers, who reads protection prayers before sleep. The truth is, I don't know if Emma was human or something else wearing a human face. I don't know if she's still out there, waiting, planning, or if she's moved on to some other target. What I do know is that there are things in this world that exist in the shadows between rational explanation and ancient fears, forces that can twist love into obsession, turn homes into prisons, make the familiar alien and threatening. People ask me if I believe in magic now, after everything that happened. I tell them I believe in the power of human intention, in the darkness that can grow in hearts fed by jealousy and rage. Whether you call it magic or madness, the result is the same: lives destroyed, minds shattered, souls marked by encounters with something that shouldn't exist but does. I still have nightmares, but they're different now. I don't dream of drowning in black water anymore. Instead, I dream of Emma's face, aging backward, becoming younger and younger until she's just a child, standing in a circle of candles while an old woman with ancient eyes teaches her words that human mouths were never meant to speak. And in these dreams, she turns to look at me and smiles that cold smile, and she says, "This isn't over. It's never over. Some connections can't be broken, only stretched." When I wake from these dreams, I check the locks, check the salt lines at my windows and doors, hold the protection charm Maria gave me until my palm aches from gripping it so tight. and I wait for the sun to rise, knowing that somewhere out there, Emma or someone like her is preparing their next ritual, selecting their next victim, weaving their dark intentions into reality one twisted thread at a time. Because that's the thing about black magic, real black magic. It's not about the spells or the rituals or the mysterious symbols. It's about the willingness to destroy someone else to get what you want, to treat human souls like ingredients in a recipe, to believe that your desire justifies any means. And once you've been touched by that kind of evil, you're never quite the same. You see it everywhere, in coincidences that aren't coincidental, in strangers who smile too long, in gifts given with hidden intentions. Some nights, when I'm feeling particularly vulnerable, I wonder if Emma won in the end. Not by destroying me physically, but by changing me into someone who can never fully trust again, never fully love again, never fully live again without looking over her shoulder. Maybe that was her real curse, not death, but a half-life spent forever watching for shadows that may or may not be there. The last time I spoke to David was a year ago. He called me, drunk, at 3 a.m. He was crying, saying he remembered everything, the restaurant, helping Emma, watching me collapse. He said she'd made him do it, that he hadn't been himself, that something had been controlling him. He begged for forgiveness, but then, mid-sentence, his voice changed, became flat and emotionless. "She says hello," he said in a tone that wasn't quite his own. "She says she'll see you soon." The line went dead, and when I tried to call back, the number was disconnected. I've moved twice since then, but I know it doesn't matter. When someone mocks you the way Emma mocked me, distance is just a minor inconvenience. So I live my life as normally as I can, but always prepared, always watching, because I know that one day, maybe tomorrow, maybe years from now, I'll wake up to find another dead crow nailed to my door. And this time, I'll be ready. This time I won't run. This time, only one of us will walk away. The thing about surviving black magic is that it changes you at a fundamental level. You become someone who exists in two worlds simultaneously. The normal world where people worry about mortgages and promotions and what to have for dinner, and the shadow world where every unexplained sound could be a threat, where every new person could be hiding dark intentions, where protection isn't paranoia, but necessity. You learn to live with one foot in each reality, never fully present in either. And sometimes, late at night when I'm alone with my thoughts, I wonder if that's not the real magic, the ability to make someone doubt reality itself, to poison their ability to trust, to turn their own mind into a prison. Because even if Emma never comes back, even if she's gone forever, she's still here in every suspicious glance I give to strangers, in every dessert I refuse to eat, in every relationship I'm too afraid to fully invest in. She won, not by destroying me, but by making me destroy myself piece by piece, day by day, one fearful moment at a time.
That's my story. As true as I can tell it. Believe it or don't, I've stopped caring what people think. But if you take anything away from this, let it be this. Be careful who you invite into your life. Pay attention to the signs your instincts give you. And if someone ever shows up at your door with elaborate desserts and a smile that doesn't reach their eyes, don't let them in. Don't eat what they offer. And whatever you do, don't ignore the dead crows. They're never just dead crows, because somewhere out there, Emma or someone like her is still practicing the old arts, still weaving their webs of intention and malice. And once you're caught in that web, escape isn't about breaking free. It's about learning to live with the threads still wrapped around your soul, invisible but ever present. A reminder that some darkness, once invited in, never truly leaves. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit that like button. Share this video with a friend who loves creepy stories. And don't forget to subscribe and press the bell icon, because this is just the beginning. The next story might be darker, and you won't want to miss it.